Alright, welcome. This is Undisputed with Clay and Brentton, where pretty much everything we say probably will be disputed. So what we're doing is we're going to be starting a NASCAR podcast, or video cast. We haven't really quite decided. This is our pilot episode. So we're going to try this, see what works, see what doesn't. We're going to hope that you guys enjoy all the topics we talk about. It should be pretty entertaining, and we're just going to see how it goes from there. So, well, good evening, Clay. How are you doing?
No, I'm fine. It's just a beautiful day here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It can't get much better than the evening. It's dark outside. And what better thing to do than talk about NASCAR? So,
did you ever watch the MRN radio show that used to come on Tuesday nights? I forget what it was called.
The MRN one? I'm not sure. I watched Speed Channel, but I don't know if that, I mean, obviously MRN is normally the radio, but...
Yeah, this has been like probably 10 or 15 years ago now.
Okay.
But I used to listen to it every Tuesday night. They would do a NASCAR show and recap the previous week's races. And
wow.
Yeah, it was a good show.
See, yeah, I was going to say, MRN is my favorite. I prefer MRN over PRN. I like the broadcasters better. It just they're way better in my opinion.
I'm gonna shoot the first question out here at you. What is the difference between MRN and PRN?
Oh yeah, I was gonna say, what's the difference? I tend to like the way the MRN tosses like the questions to each other. I feel like they have a little bit better synergy. They don't tend to go off topic as much, which I know when your cars are going around in a circle, how is that possible? But it's the way they're able to feed each other the next, to the next broadcaster. They do a lot better at having transitions. They have, I think, in my opinion, they have better radio voices, so their voices are a little bit more crisp and clear to hear. Their energy level is amazing. When it comes to like events on the track or events on like pit road and stuff, they're very good at describing it very quickly in detail, and when something exciting happens, they've got an attention level or a vocal range that displays kind of what is happening on the track, and that's something I think I appreciate with MRN over PRN.
Yeah.
So
good point.
Thanks.
Well, what do you think coming off of Talladega this past weekend? Did you see the races?
I did. So I liked the fact that they raced to the end. That was cool.
That's a controversial one right now. I've heard a lot of mixed feelings on the racing to the end.
It is. And I know that it is a controversial topic, but at the same time, I think that as fans, we all want to see something that goes and races to the end, because that's the good stuff. As drivers, I know that Kurt Busch was pretty vocal about the fact that they didn't throw the caution as cars were spinning, and for the safety of the drivers, that they should have thrown the caution so they can get the drivers attended to. I can see that point. I sort of leaned toward that after the initial, while I watched it happen, I wish they had thrown a caution. And I leaned that direction simply because I was like, you threw a caution for a tire that got stuck in the infield. Like, there was nothing going on with that.
Danger, Brentton.
Yes, it is. It's the lack of safety. I get that. Sometimes I'm like, they got 2.3 miles. They could have taken a truck out there, picked up the tire, and taken it off. I mean, we saw some instances at the Roval that they were able to not throw cautions, where they'd have just cautions kind of like in the corners, similar to F1. So I think that they could probably iron that out a little bit. I think the one really unexpected thing was seeing how ridiculously tight the Stewart-Haas racing team was in that race. I mean, I don't think anybody really saw that coming, and it's got all of the brackets just totally messed up right now. So,
well, prior to that last caution. Um, it was looking like it was going to be 100% Stuart Haas show.
Yeah.
A 4-car breakaway. Nobody could get formed up to get to him. They
No.
to work together, anything. That second pack was just getting crazier and further behind as time went on. One point I was thinking about on Sunday as the race was ending was, did you watch the truck race on Saturday?
I missed the truck race. I did see some of the highlights of it, though.
So on the truck race, I don't remember if they went in overtime or not, but it was basically they came to the white flag, had a big wreck coming out of turn 2. Noah Gragson got turned into the wall, and about the same size wreck, maybe 1 or 2 more trucks, but the severity level was the same as Sunday. Caution immediately.
Oh, wow.
Whatever, Timothy Peters won because obviously he was in the lead at the time of caution.
Sure.
Sunday, Kurt Busch has a really decent lead at the time of caution. I mean, at the time of the wreck.
Right.
What I guess a lot of people think should have been a caution on Sunday.
Yeah.
Should they or should they not have been the caution? I think that's going to be a matter of perspective. Kurt Busch obviously wanted that caution because he was about to run out of gas. But here's the thing.
True.
If you ran out of gas, you got to finish that last lap.
Yeah.
Under caution. Would he have made it to the line? I doubt it.
I was going to say, yeah, I don't think so.
A little bit of sour grapes. I personally, I was very, very happy they let him race to the end. I think they should have on Saturday as well. These people come out and pay their hard-earned money to come watch these guys race, and they throw a caution flag when there's still, 2 or 3 corners left to race. I have a little bit of a problem with that.
Yeah, I can understand that, and I agree. I do. I'm okay with the fact that they throw they don't throw the cautions. I think more just what I'm thinking is just I think being consistent with it. If they're gonna throw it for things, throw it for things. If they're not gonna throw it for things, don't throw it for things. And I'm okay with racing to the end like that. And I actually agree too that they probably should let them race to the end, or they should race into the end, because it was way more fun. I'm so glad that Eric Almirola got his win. Right. It was about time for him to get one, and I knew he would. So, yeah. And somebody got bacon for life. He was hyped at that. He was like, somebody got bacon for life. So
winning the race.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, definitely like racing to the end. I think I'm an advocate for that for sure. I don't like the inconsistencies in the cautions that they're having. If they're gonna throw it, throw it. If they're not, they're not. But don't like throw a tire, like a caution for a tire that's sitting in the infield when you have 9 cars wrecking in the backstretch on the last lap. Who's to say that is safe or not safe as much as a tire sitting in? I mean, it is. It's their call. So it's going to be the discrepancies, like you said, either way. But I'm glad. In the end, I am glad that they finished and raced it to the end. So.
No, as far as I'm concerned, when the white flag comes out, bring them back around. Even if there's cars strung all over the track, as long as they can get back to the start-finish line safely, let them race.
That makes sense. I agree.
Because by the time you get to turn 1, unless you're at, friggin' Bristol or Martinsville, you're going to be slowed down by the time you get back to where that rack is.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And they're only going to be hard charging through that start-finish line. Once they're through the finish line, it's all brakes from there. So they're not going to be going into turn 1 at full speed again. So.
Well, they like to make the argument of safety, and I get it. You don't want to see any of the drivers get hurt, but
sure.
I think this is one of the biggest problems with the sport right now. Is a lot of people wouldn't like to hear me say this, but it's too safe. It's too safe. There's no danger on it. I know when you get in your car and you head out on the freeway to go wherever you're going, you probably see more action in the 15 minutes while you're on the freeway than you probably saw in that whole race on Sunday.
Absolutely, yeah. That was that was one of the Talladega races that has probably had the fewest wrecks or like cars still either A on the lead lap or B still running by the end of the race in years, I would imagine.
Right.
Yeah, and it's kind of one of those things where like, so I guess like the current state of the sport is safety, which is clearly like a number one priority, but
Right.
it is almost too safe. They have to kind of balance it out where the safety of the drivers is fine. And I'm kind of interested to see what next year with the lower horsepower cars, if that will increase the thrill of the sport and kind of, balance out the fact of maybe we're not all, hard charging. You won't get that 4 car breakaway. You'll probably get more pack racing, bumper to bumper or side to side, and hopefully that will, increase the level of, racing as far as like wrecks and going for it and, just sending it, as people say nowadays, like sending it rather than, trying to get the car back in one piece. With lower speeds, you maybe feel more comfortable as a driver, so you're still safe. As you got all the Hans devices, you got all that stuff,
Right.
but more try to keep towards like, safety as the main goal. But if you back those speeds off, hopefully NASCAR's goal was to produce side by side racing, and let the guys actually like use the cars to bump each other out of the way or to like, I don't, yeah, I mean that's a bad way to phrase it, but I guess race, like legit race, rather than have high speeds and worry about safety crashing into a wall at 200 plus. So
Right. Well, personally, I find it a little comical when you see the NASCAR promos and the drivers are standing there, all smug and cool, and because they face death every week, and then when they come to Talladega and they have one crash, they all cry like a bunch of babies.
Yeah.
It's not safe. I'm like,
yeah,
"God, look, are you gonna be badasses or are you gonna sit there and complain? Which is it gonna be?
that's true. They can't have it both ways.
I will get in your car and go 200 miles an hour for the paycheck you make.
Right.
I would love that.
Same here. Man, after seeing those cars, because we went to Dover the other weekend. After seeing those cars whip through that track, like I've been to Michigan before. It's been a while, but I mean, you don't really have a time to think at that speed when you're at Michigan. Even at Dover, I was like, these guys are flying around this so fast. Like, it's a very different perception in person than on TV. But
Right.
either way, it's like those speeds are incredible. I would love to do it. I'd jump in a car and do it.
Well, the neat thing about Dover that a lot of people don't realize, especially on TV, is that the track has some funny dips in different places that probably
Yeah.
makes it difficult to hold on to the car. Especially one place I can think of that looks extra difficult is the turn 2 exit. Coming up onto the backstretch.
Yes.
The car slides up the track and then they kind of go down. That looks
Yeah,
really
it settles back down.
Yeah. And that's where you see a lot of rookies mess up. Some of them hold on to it, but a lot of them you see them get really loose there. And same thing with the turn 4 exit, coming back down to the start finish line. Same thing. So
Yeah.
Dover's a unique track. It just looks like a circle on TV, but once you go there, you realize it's a little bit different than it looks. But
And
still,
yeah. I was gonna say, boy, it's a great track. So
the cars still handle well. The drivers are safe, and the cars are driving that way too, which means it's just cars going in a circle anymore.
yeah. I was gonna say, and that's probably everybody's argument of how NASCAR. I mean, most people don't watch it because it's boring, because it's a bunch of cars turning left, and
the experience of being there, the noise, the smell, the action, everything is great.
Yep.
To be there as opposed to watching it on TV. But tell me a little about our race experience from last Saturday or two
Sure.
Saturdays ago.
Yeah, so at Dover, that was
the race
absolutely
itself was exciting.
no, that was fun. So yeah, we went through. What did we see? We saw the Xfinity series, And yeah, that was great. Like you said, the smells and the sound and just being there, that's the way to experience NASCAR. Um,
Right.
which is kind of nice. I was disappointed to see that there weren't more people there.
Yeah.
You had mentioned to me that some of the sections had been, you know, they were closed off or something like that. And I don't know how the attendance was on Sunday, if it was a little better than it was on Saturday.
Not
No,
much.
okay, which is kind of sad. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, seeing all of those grandstands
Empty.
empty is disappointing. But at the same time, I think they're doing well at trying to get more, I guess, family friendly activities at the track. Getting, there, I saw climbing walls. I saw, like, tons of food vendors. Granted, food is outrageously priced. Like, for
Right.
the price of a ticket and the price of food, that's hard. But I guess they do let you bring in coolers, and so that might help a little bit. There's the sights, the sounds. Just seeing that stuff in person is entertaining, at
Right.
least for me, and I know you enjoy it too. So
Oh, yeah.
I'm hoping that I could get my wife to a race. Maybe she can experience one, see what she thinks of it. Yeah, she's working her way through it on television. She's starting to enjoy it. She's really excited to finally see somebody run out of gas, which I think, had she been feeling well on Sunday, she would have appreciated that Kurt Busch ran out of gas. But
I
she was a little
appreciate
under the weather. She missed it. Um, but yeah, I think, yeah, that experience at Dover was just great. It's fun to have friends there. We can't really talk to each other while the race is going. You can't hear each
it.
other, but
Right, but it
it's
doesn't work.
right. It's fun to just have somebody there who enjoys the sport just as much. So as when the caution flies or something like that, you take your earplugs out of it. You discuss what's going on, what you're seeing, what you're observing. Like you said, the dips into turn one and the pulling out into turn two, and the exit of turn four. Watching those cars do that at a high speed. As the tires get more and more, faded and the cars get more loose,
Right.
it's inevitable that those cars are going to slide up the track and hit the wall.
Right.
So,
Well,
seeing it only happen twice was kind of disappointing when we were there at the Xfinity race, but
yeah. Well,
it's good to
here's
see.
here's the thing. Experience aside, how was the race itself? Did you enjoy the race itself?
It was
Personally,
it.
I thought the race sucked.
Yeah, I
It
was gonna say it was a little monotonous. I mean,
was extremely monotonous.
yeah, I like the fact that I got to go. I'm like, I'm never gonna turn down a race ever, but
Yeah.
it was a little uneventful. I started trying to be more inclined to watch, like, the battle between 17th and 18th, because I found that more fun than seeing the first place guy try to lap the same amount of people over and over.
Right.
So there wasn't a lot of passing happening, which is why I got stuck watching the 17th and 18th place person, just trying to see if they could actually pull off a pass. There wasn't a lot of wrecks. For as many times as the lead pack caught the end of the pack and passed them, the slower traffic didn't affect the faster traffic. Granted, I know they shouldn't, like, I know the slower traffic shouldn't get in the way, and they're supposed to get out of the way. They get the blue
Right.
yellow flag to move over, but at the same time, I'm like, somebody's got to be making a mistake here somewhere, and
Right.
it didn't happen. There was just way too much not happening to, like,
I don't
warrant.
know. I don't know if that's just a product of the racing right now, or if it has something to do with the playoffs, where everybody's trying to be on their best behavior. I'm not sure.
No, that's a good point. Yeah.
But even Talladega, I mean, the spring Talladega race is always better than the fall, and I think it's for the same reason.
Yep. I think so too. So, in the current state of how it is, do you think the playoffs help the sport, or do you think the playoffs hurt the sport?
I think they hurt the sport. I think they
Okay.
take. I think the whole. I always knew it as the chase, and this is another one of my beefs with NASCAR right now. Football, which I love, has playoffs. Baseball has playoffs. Hockey has playoffs. Every sport has playoffs. NASCAR is not like every other sport. Why are we trying to make it like every other sport? It was
Thank
always
you.
called. It was always
Preach.
called the chase. Whatever.
Yeah, no,
But
I agree. I
the
agree completely.
they're putting way too much emphasis on the end of the year, and I have no problem with everybody looking at the big picture. Trying to plan long term to win the championship. Because I mean, honestly, that's why everybody's out there racing so hard every week. But I mean, how many times do you see these guys get out of their car and say, good solid day, and they seem happy with their performance, and they finish 10th or 13th or something? I'm like, dude, you think that was good? I mean,
yeah. Well,
not to quote a cheesy movie, but if you're not winning, you're losing.
right. And I think that's the thing. Like, I think so, because I agree. Like, without that, it's not really a product of, putting together a championship. Because
right.
the difference between, the sports like football and hockey and baseball and all that versus NASCAR is we have like 43 cars or so running around a track, one winner out of 43 cars versus like 2-team matchups every week to narrow down who is the champion. So of course, like in basketball, you can have playoffs and have like in March Madness where you have the little guy go all the way to the end, because that logically makes sense in basketball. If you have 2-on-2 teams, that's all you can do as the sport dictates, and move your way up from there. Then you can have the little guy like the David versus Goliath, and that works really well. With NASCAR going almost 30 some weeks out of the year, and you stretch that out, of course there has to be an emphasis on winning, because like you said, if you're not winning, you're losing. But I think what's happened is they have such an emphasis on like being okay with 10th, because if you look at it, number speaking, if they always finish 10th and the guy who wins first comes in 28th the next week, that discrepancy ruins his points, his average. So like NASCAR is all about the longevity average, which I think is smart because you have such a long season, but there needs to be more emphasis on the winning, and I don't think their formula currently facilitates the emphasis on winning. Like, if you got like 100 extra points or like a money prize or something for winning, that would make it way more worthwhile to win, so you can be at the end of the season. Because I mean, if Kevin Harvick, Kyle Busch, and Martin Truex aren't in the top 4 at Homestead, is that a championship run or is it not? I mean, I guess that could be something that's debatable. Like, it could be disputed. I don't know. I mean, I like Kyle Busch, but I wouldn't say that if he's not in the playoffs, it's not fair because of how they have the current system. But he did win a jillion races, and Kevin Harvick won a jillion races. So what was the point of them winning all season long just to fail in the last like 6 races? I don't know.
Right. Well, yeah, you're right. And I think NASCAR kind of tried to touch on that with the win you're in, but it was a good effort, but it still just isn't quite helping. They're still with stage wins and things like that. They're still getting enough points that these guys are still here at the end. And if you look at the playoff standings right now, I mean, obviously Almirola's first and Chase Elliott's second because of their wins.
Right.
If I told you back in February before Daytona that Kevin Harvick, Kyle Busch, Joey Logano, and Martin Truex Jr., and Brad Keselowski would all be in the top 10, would you be surprised?
No, not really. That made sense.
We have the same crowd every year. And no matter what NASCAR does to this, playoffs, you got the same people every year.
Yeah.
I mean, how many more times? I mean, and honestly, this is just my prediction, but I think Kevin Harvick's going to go ahead and win another championship. I look for him to win at Kansas this weekend. We've had Almirola and Elliott win the last 2 races. It's time for one of our regulars to come back.
Yeah. No, I would agree with that. I know. I was thinking the same thing earlier this week. I'm like, one of the big hitters is going to win this weekend. I mean, it's either going to be Harvick, it's going to be Busch, it's either going to be Keselowski. one of those three is hungry enough and has the ability to pull it off. It's just going to be which one. I don't really think one of the other underdogs is going to do it, but yeah, I mean, numbers are just numbers, but I think we're pretty good at predicting this type of stuff. So,
Well, and it's nothing against these guys like Harvick and Keselowski and Logano, and I mean, it's just because they're good, but
yeah,
they're tired of seeing them in the end of the year. Every single year they're there. They're like a bad habit. They just keep showing up
yeah,
week after week. And, of course he's going to be going at the end of this year, but, as a longtime Casey Kane fan, what happened to Casey? He just, came into the sport, really, really hot and heavy right off the bat. Him and Ray Evernham hooked up, and he was just on fire. I don't remember how many second place finishes he had in his rookie year, but he was just ridiculously good. The very next year, 05, had an awful year. Got his first win, but besides that, had an awful year. 06, right. Wonderful year. I think he won 6 races in that season. I mean, had a real Kevin Harvick type year.
Yeah.
And Matt Kenseth was also one of those guys that kind of had one of these careers where one season he'd be great and another season he'd be trash. But
right.
It just seems like Keselowski, Logano, Harvick, all these guys for the last 5 years, you just can't get rid of them.
Sure. And I think some people would have argued that, over the last 5 years, because we all see that Jimmy Johnson's reign's kind of coming to an end, and right. We're all familiar with that. But, for 7 years, roughly, 5 for sure, he was the one. And so now his reign's kind of over. We have his one spot, like his dominance is now taken up by almost 4 or 5 other people. So I would say the shoes that he filled were large, considering the fact that he dominated for so long and in so many different ways and formats and cars and all of that. To have these 5 guys come out there and win almost every week for the last 5 years, it is a little monotonous. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how teams interpret, their way, like their drivers in the next couple of years, how they interpret their sponsors. If the sport has to get cheaper to have a higher turnover, clearly we're seeing that if you're not, as truckers put it, if you're not turning, you're not earning. If they're not winning, they're getting the boot. And other drivers, you see the longevity of them. They stay for a while, even through their ups and downs, and that tends to work out a little better. Like Denny Hamlin could probably be considered in that boat. He's good, and then he's not so good. He's got his ups and downs. He hasn't won in a long time. He hasn't. Well, I guess I shouldn't say in a long time, but he hasn't won a championship in a long time. He hasn't, and I actually have to check on that. I don't even know if he has. Has he won a championship? I can't remember.
I think so.
Yeah, but it's just kind of like he's one of those middle of the pack drivers. That's kind of like he's been with Joe Gibbs for a while, and that's a good thing. You get that chemistry working. So I guess it's kind of hard for a team member or a team owner to be like, I got to drop you because you're not performing. But It's hard to say, can you have all 4 drivers performing? Even Hendrick didn't even have all 4 at any given time performing back when Jimmy Johnson was dominant. So, that's hard to say.
Yeah. Well, I know we're running a little short on time here, but what if you could change 2 things to the sport to make it better? What would you do?
2 things. To make it better, I think it'd be fun to try to another manufacturer. I think just to see what the types of results, if you had 3 teams that went with another manufacturer, like if Dodge came back, man, I just think that would be fun. I think it would brighten things. I mean, they might suck, which might be hilarious or fail. I just think another manufacturer would be cool. I don't know why. Right. I just do. It might be unfavorable, but I think it would be cool. The second thing would probably be an easier to explain point system. For people who don't follow NASCAR, and like when I try to explain it to my wife, it's really hard, and I just wish I could explain it easier. And so I think having something that's easier to explain would probably have more people, would make it easier. So what about you? What are your two?
I'm writing mine down right now.
Perfect. I'm excited to see.
Mine are much more simple than yours, but two things that are very important to
That's
me.
good. I'm glad they're simple.
I don't know if you can see it, but we need more
More
fights
fights. Oh, yes.
and less laps.
Oh,
I
wow.
can tell
That's
you,
smart.
I can't tell you how tired I am of sitting there and watching Chase Elliott dominate a race just to have a NASCAR caution with 3 laps to go.
Yes.
And Keselowski or Harvick goes up there and steals it.
Preach. Preach. Yeah, you definitely have the better two out of this one. That's undisputed right there.
As a Chase Elliott fan or, fan of any underdog, if somebody is doing well in a race, I want to see him win,
Yes.
If Jay Green and Harvick, runs him down and passes him, would I be happy? No. But, I mean, he did it via racing.
Yes, not via
racing
caution.
Wasn't a caution that just basically ruined the race. I don't know about you, but I mean, my time isn't terribly precious, but 4 hours of the same crap it gets a little old.
It does. It does.
As a Kyle Busch fan, I don't want to hurt your feelings, but I get really tired of hearing Kyle say, he didn't race me clean, or,
Yeah, no, I agree.
Fine.
I agree.
Fight about it. Go back. And NASCAR needs to let these guys take gloves off and do it, do their own thing. Chances are they're not going to hurt each other. If they do, then we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But that's what people want to see are fights, and they want to see shootouts.
Yep.
I love the, they used to call it the Bud Shootout. But
Bud Shootouts, yeah.
Call it now, but it was the Sprint Unlimited. I don't know what that gets called.
Yeah,
now.
I think it was Sprint Unlimited. So now I don't even know what it is for the Monster side.
It's just the shootout.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I don't know, but
I was to say I don't know. It is, but it's entertaining. That's for sure.
I don't remember the exact laps, but I think it's is it about 75?
Yeah, I think so.
75 or 125, somewhere in that range. It's just right. It's just enough for the cars to, for us to see some good racing.
Yep.
Have 1 to 2 rounds of pit stops. Likely see a crash in the end.
Yep.
And it's 2 hours tops.
Well, you good sir, I think you have solved the problem there, and I think you have literally ended this show on the best note ever. I'm pretty sure your 2 points are completely undisputed. That sums up the show perfectly.
That's what I want to see. More fights.
Heck yeah.
Don't tell me that the days of Dale Earnhardt were good days in NASCAR.
Oh yeah, no, they were. It was this.
I might get killed for saying this, but I didn't really like Dale Earnhardt that much. I was always a huge Jeff Gordon fan. But
ditto though. They're gonna have to come after both of us because I was a Jeff Gordon fan too. I didn't really like Junior either. So yeah, they'll have to come find both of us because we're on the same page. We're in the same boat.
I don't have any problems with them. They just never really appealed to me. Oh, it's just
Same.
like Jeff was a little bit outside the box, and he wasn't, the cookie cutter NASCAR driver.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree.
He was a little different and, fun to watch because he mixed things up.
Yep. That was the way it was. And man, it's interesting. So hopefully the better days of NASCAR are ahead. Hopefully we can get back to that. If they can follow your advice and they can listen to this podcast, I'm pretty sure they'll be in better shape than where they started and what they're currently at right now.
I
So,
started watching in 2001. Actually, the very first NASCAR race I watched was the one that they lost Dale in
oh,
Daytona.
really?
It was the very first race I watched. I believe it was the first NASCAR season that Fox Sports had, um,
Oh, man.
with Mike Joy and Darrell Waltrip and Jeff Hammond
Yeah.
and or I guess Larry McReynolds. I don't remember. Yeah,
I don't even know. Was Larry Mack still a crew chief at that point, or is he? Well, he might
yeah.
not at that point.
I'm pretty sure he was in the booth.
Yeah.
But, obviously, nobody wanted to see anything happen to Dale.
No. No.
But in this weird society we live in, danger sells, and NASCAR
Yes.
popularity just
Yep.
kept going right up. And the rest of that season was great. '02 was great. '03 was great. You remember Darlington in '03? Ricky Craven and Kurt Busch
Yeah.
were one of the closest finish in history. I mean,
Yep.
do we see that anymore?
No.
And that wasn't even a fight. That was just hard racing.
Yeah. I don't know, and that's the thing. I mean, like, if we can get back to that, if we can slow the speeds down, see more fights even on the track. If you slow the speeds down, the safety's still there. You can
Right.
get the cars more aggressive, and you can see the fights on the track. You can see more bumping. You can see more rubbing as racing.
Right.
If, like you said, if you get the smaller amount of laps and make the guys really work for it. I mean, if you've only got 200 laps to make this happen, you're going to put the car where it shouldn't be because you're going to need to get it there to win.
Right.
That's a simple recipe right there. So,
Well, they've got some good ideas. I was a big fan of the All Star race this past year, where they ran the restrictor plates at Charlotte.
yeah.
They never lifted or anything. The racing was great. I want to see that at more tracks.
I think the way they're describing it, I think that's probably what it's going to be like this year or next year with the lower horsepower packages. Is apparently they're supposed to be able to be flat out longer, so it's going to be pedal to the floor most of the time and allowing them to really just stay in it to try to get that to work. So,
Right. Well, last thing, Kansas this weekend. I made my pick. Unfortunately, I don't want to see him win, but I think Harvick is due for a trip back to victory lane and punch his ticket to the next round. What about you?
I know, yeah. I think since we discussed having one of the big guys, and I hate to be biased. I hate to be biased because I like Kyle Busch, but I think Kyle will do it on this weekend. Just because I agree that one of the big guys is going to do it this weekend. I'm going to pick Kyle as pulling it off.
I like Kyle better, and I would like to see him win, but Kyle just hasn't had the form in the last few weeks. I think he needs to get back to victory lane.
Yeah.
So, I guess we'll see.
We will see. So we can discuss that on the next one, whenever we make that next one. But hopefully you all enjoyed listening to Undisputed with Clay and Brentton, myself. And hopefully you guys will join us on the next one when we create that one. And we look forward to making a bunch more of these. Thanks for joining us.